Well, welcome to the Side Action, episode 12 of season 4. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So, Action, you obviously had a big weekend in Columbus. I had a big weekend in Mexico. So, how did it go down there?
It was fun, enjoyable to see all of our family and friends down in Columbus. And we tailgated most of the day on Saturday, had an awesome setup with a commercial tailgate. And my aunt and cousin's company they had like an employee morale event that was going on. So it was kind of a mix between our family and a lot of the employees that they work with. So, and then the game started and it went downhill. The Boilermakers got crushed by C.J. Stroud, new Heisman favorite, C.J. Stroud and the Buckeyes.
He's definitely closing the season well. They're playing really well after that initial stubbing the toe against Oregon, which we saw, of course, it's we're out of Circa.
That's right. How was Mexico?
It was great. I think we talked about our bird that was liking the Jets. We know that was a mistake, but it was a great time. I don't know if I could do it. I know my uncle, I give him a lot of credit. I mean, I'm a little worried about his liver. I mean, we were drinking a lot. I don't know if he does that every day, but it seemed like it, because what else are you going to do? Your parents go out drinking and eat food, and he stays slim by walking around and playing golf. But yeah, I mean, it was fun, but I got home pretty late Sunday night and then had 2 conference days here in Chicago with my industry, and so my liver needs a rest. But anyway, so whatever. Good, big problem, tough problem, Wags. I mean, having a great time, so can't complain.
Good. Glad to hear. Yeah, I mean, getting out on the golf course, I'm sure, is another great activity in Mexico to do. Surely can't pass that up.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful, beautiful place, in the Caribbean there, and Yucatan Peninsula, and there's so much to do there. There's a lot going on right in that strip, right what we were talking about, Avenida Cinco, and we definitely checked it out. So it's good. You also put in the notes here. We didn't even talk about it last week, but maybe just briefly. But college hoops started, and it's full force for our normal listeners or new listeners this year. We will talk about college hoops quite a bit. We'll probably start when January action, like when playoffs are going, but there's a lot less volume of games. So we'll start talking about Action has his own index. The Action Index? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so. I let the data simmer a little bit. I kind of, the season started probably 2 weeks ago now.
Sure.
And I didn't really jump into it right away. I kind of let Ken Palm get going, and then I just created like the first spreadsheet a week ago or so, and I've dabbled a little bit. Pretty good start for me, but I'm kind of easing into it a little bit more this season as compared to years past.
Yeah, I'll ease in. I'll wait. But I do similar stuff as you do with Ken Palm, and just do a lot of analysis in preparation for my big Wegs pool, the reason why it's called Wegs pool. So definitely like to do that. Action does a really cool players pool that we do for the tournament, which has been a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll get Cole on again to discuss that. But no, yeah, it's definitely starting. I've seen some action, some games, and there's some really good teams, and I think a lot of the smaller teams are really kind of showing up the big boys right now. So
yeah. And I recently learned that the Maui Invitational is no longer in Maui. Well, at least for this season, it's going to be in Vegas. And concurrently, I'll be there next week. So I was eyeing the schedule a little bit, maybe pick up some tickets, pop over to T-Mobile for a game or two.
Yeah, you should check it out. I mean, Action's going to Vegas. He'll visit our proxy, as we've mentioned before, and do some outdoor activities. But yeah, I mean, they have all those tournaments there for the first beginning of the season, right? It's not just that one. There's usually several, so it's pretty cool to have those early season tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's jump into the recap for week 10 in the NFL. This is kind of a broken record for the last few weeks. Underdogs winning. Action. You've got 9-5. I think I had 10-4. I mean, this is just every week the dogs are coming in. Road dogs doing great, 6-3. In general, road teams are still doing very well. They're 8-6 against the spread. I mean, normally speaking, in other years that it's not even close to being even for road teams. I mean, it's a home field world. So it's just flipped on its head this season. The unders came in again huge. So if you're an under better, I mean, you should be cashing tickets. I mean, unless you're picking the wrong games, it's just been incredible.
Yeah, I don't really know that I have an explanation at this point for the underdogs specifically. You and I have talked quite a bit on how we expect it might come back to the middle a little bit, but doesn't appear to, at least the last several weeks. So we'll see if the dogs and the unders come in again this week.
I know. It's great. And then just to that, there were actually three games that were affected by the spread, including the ties, as Action referenced. Everybody loves ties, not no one, unless you're a soccer player. So but it's still overall for the season. If you pick the side, you're doing pretty well, assuming you're picking in the correct upset, because there's so many underdogs that are winning outright this year.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the highs, you've noted the Bills. They obviously got back on track against a crappy opponent. This is what they do. We'll see if they can play better this week when they play against the Colts. But I mean, it seems like this team can feast on these poor opponents.
Yeah, I mean, another game and another week where the Bills appear to be running up the score towards the end. We've talked about in some of our handicaps where they never let their foot off the gas. And late in that game again against the Jets, they're in the red zone trying to score another touchdown late and almost got one of their running backs into trouble a little bit with an injury.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely something to pack away in the mind looking at this Bills team that likes to pile on to inferior opponents.
Yeah, they did get a little bit more of the running backs this week, so they probably listened to the podcast, I'm sure. But Josh Allen's the guy. He had a great game as well. So we'll see. You also know the Cowboys back on track. Yeah, I don't know what happened the week before against Denver, but they came out against Atlanta, who's played decent lately, and just my gosh, what's the term? Boat raced them. I mean, this game wasn't close. It was over. I don't know. Only midway through the second quarter, this game was over.
Yeah, the first quarter was close. I think it was 7-3. Atlanta might have gotten on the board first with that field goal,
Right.
but then the Cowboys scored the next 43 points, and the final was 43-3. I've heard on several occasions throughout the industry, folks talk about how in a normal NFL season, teams will usually play what their actual rating is, about 10 games per year. And then you've got 3 games where they play well above their rating and 3 games where they just throw out an absolute dud and they are just way below their normal rating. And I think, some of these performances recently that we've seen would really attest to that, especially the Cowboys the week before when they lost to the Broncos 30-0.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of like the Bills playing against the Jags. I mean, that's just an outlier. There has to be outliers at some point. So
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay, so we have the Titans. They did beat a good team. They beat the Saints, solid team, especially defensively, but they won. They just didn't cover it. Finally, we get one of these situations where they don't cover the situation. I was noting that their projected win total is the highest in the NFL because for the most part, they've beaten all the tough teams on their schedule. They might have a couple left, but they're already done with the Colts. They played the Chiefs. They played a lot of good teams. So it's going to be hard to see the Titans not being at least the 2 seed, if not the 1 seed, this for the AFC.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they have lost Derrick Henry, at least presumably till the end of the regular season. So we'll see how that factors in as they go down the stretch. But their schedule does get pretty easy from here on out. The Jags and the Texans still on the schedule, and the Dolphins later in the year, as well as Pittsburgh. So I do think, though, that this little run that they've been on is just leading to inflated point spreads. And I think that despite the victories, you've seen an offense that has been downgraded a little bit in terms of their ability to put up yards and points.
No question. Little hint that Action may be targeting them again this week as a non-cover. Well, you got your Patriots. Okay, I'm on the Patriots bandwagon. I'm in. Okay. So obviously I got you to try to do the Browns last week, and that was a disaster. Partially, I think that's more against the Browns. I mean, I think that's, Baker, I heard a lot on VSiN this week how, there's a couple of players, Baker being one, that you have a game plan to beat him. And it's basically rushing up the middle where he can't see over the line, apparently. And they went down the field, scored on the first drive. Like you said, with Atlanta, they got the lead early, 7-zip, 45 straight points. Now the defense also got dominated. I mean, huge domination, rushing the ball. My guy, Ramondre Stevenson, just crushed it last week for me on all fantasy teams. But this Patriots defense is playing great. They're playing for each other. They're playing hard. This is a good team.
Yeah, I mean, they are certainly turning it on. Defense is playing well, and Mac Jones is just doing what he needs to. But
Mm-hmm.
I I don't really know what happened to the Browns in this contest. I guess it was just over quickly. I mean, they only put up 217 yards
Yeah.
against that Patriots defense. So certainly question marks about the Browns, and has you wondering if Nick Chubb is all that important. Obviously, very important to their offense.
Seems like he might be very important to them. Yes. Packers defense, we've been talking about this, and I know we kind of casually usually say the Packers defense isn't very good. The metrics say otherwise. I mean, this team is really playing better, and they're number three in scoring defense and yards against. They've put up three really good performances, maybe not against top flight offenses, but they shut out Russell Wilson for the first time in his career. I know he's coming back slow. You had him 208 yards in this game and 3.5 yards per play. That's abysmal for Seattle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are we looking at the wrong side of the ball when we look at the Packers?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, Aaron Rodgers certainly wasn't his normal self. On the other side, that game was like 3-0 going into the fourth quarter and had me sweating a little bit on our cover. But ultimately, they got some late touchdowns to get within the margin or outside the margin. But the defense is playing great. Their rush defense is still a little bit lower, 24th ranked against the rush, but overall, I
Okay.
mean, they're up almost into the top 10 now and certainly playing above their expectation from to begin the year.
Right. Agreed. Another theme, defense, Chiefs defense. Hey, the Chiefs did it. We were against them, right? We thought that the Raiders, not only because of their performance last year, but the Chiefs just haven't been doing it for some stupid reason. The Raiders decided not to employ the strategy against the
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs, but so the Chiefs dominated, but on defense they played well again, and this time holding the Raiders to 50 yards rushing, and that's a decent Raiders rushing attack. And you've noted 2 of 11 on third and fourth down conversion. So this Chiefs defense has turned it around a little bit.
Yeah, definitely playing well above. I mean, they started off the season with some very difficult opponents, and I think
Mhm.
ultimately that strength of schedule probably led to some of their depressed numbers on that side of the ball. But now you're seeing some lesser opponents, and they're really playing well, and certainly leading them. I mean, so now Patrick Mahomes and the offense can be a little bit lower than their impeccable best, and they could still be a great football team.
Right, for sure. Let's go to the lows action. This is some bad stuff. I already kind of crapped on the draw. So Steelers and Lions draw. Do any books offer that? What is it?
That would be astronomical price. I'm sure you could probably find it, but I wouldn't recommend ever betting on it.
But it was kind of weird that the Steelers' run defense was god awful.
Yeah,
The Andre Swift was great, but they were running all over that Steelers defense. The Lions were.
yeah, yeah. Just an ugly game all around. I don't know if you caught any of it throughout your travels, but it was
Thank
on TV often. So
Yeah, I missed it. I was shocked to see it was 16 all at the end. But to your credit, we did obviously like Dan Campbell out of the bye there, get his team
mhm.
together. They played really well, and obviously Mason Rudolph is a big downgrade from Ben. But again, I was just surprised that they gave us so many yards on the ground. But anyway,
Yeah, 229 rushing yards. That's a great call. I didn't pick that out of the box score.
yeah. Now the Cardinals, they were. This is weird. This is like what we were talking about. One week, they've got Colt McCoy. They're scoring all these points against the 49ers. Next week, I guess he got knocked out of the game at some point, right? Colt McCoy, or got dinged up or something,
Yeah, I think Streveler did come in for a couple of series.
right? But either way, they got beaten down, and really it was from the jump. Cam Newton joins the team. I didn't realize he was going to play at all. He comes in. I think he's the only NFL player ever in the history of the league to have his first two plays be a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. And then, of course, he didn't play much. He didn't need to because
Yeah.
your guy Walker was the guy.
Yeah, the Cardinals had a very curious game plan defensively too. They were just sitting back and letting Walker just throw underneath stuff. I think he finished 22 out of 29, not a ton of yards, 167 passing yards, but they were really moving the ball because the Cardinals just kept giving him that short throw every time. It was
Right.
really strange and almost just a game that the Cardinals gave up clearly by sitting Murray and Hopkins. I'm guessing that they're going to be trending closer to playing this week, and they just ultimately, it seemed like an organizational decision to let that one go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure why. It's an NFC game, but And then the last one is the Stafford. A lot of people were big on the Rams. I'm not sure where you sat with the Rams early in the year. And obviously they had the talent on paper. It seemed like, oh, upgrade with Stafford. But this guy's not a big game quarterback, is he? And I mean, it's not
Mhm.
that the 49ers are a big game team anymore, to be honest with you, but they got crushed on Monday night. And it was, and obviously two more bad interceptions, another pick six. So what's going on here with the Rams and Stafford?
Well, I think it's just the real Matt Stafford, to be
Right.
honest. They can't protect him either. That does not help in the slightest. Their offensive line play has been very poor lately, and the pressure is getting to him now. He kind of looks like he and Goff are meeting towards the middle, although Goff isn't really rising. But um, I mean, they're still ranked second in DVOA on offense, and overall, they've certainly dropped a little bit. I'm curious to see how you have downgraded the Rams after their last two performances.
Well, let's just look. The overall index, they're still up there, as I will note in a minute. They're still like maybe sixth, I guess now, but you can see it. It's on. I mean, their defense. It's kind of interesting. The yardage has gotten a little bit better. They were giving up some points early, but they're like 11th or 12th. In that range for on
Okay.
defense. And like you said, the offense is still top. 6 and 7. So. I think the turnovers are really what's killing them now because it's their
Mhm.
differential has dropped, obviously the last couple of weeks especially. And it's just hard to overcome when you throw pick sixes. I mean, it's hard to do that in any game, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
And it's pretty evident to me that the switch from Robert Woods, who tore his ACL late last week, to OBJ is not going to be a positive for the Rams offense.
Yeah, and I do question the locker room with that too, but we'll see. They've tried to do this before, and they definitely have talent in the locker room. So let's go. You just did an illusion, some key injuries. You talked about Robert Woods. He's out, ACL. Chase Young for Washington didn't seem to hurt him against the Bucks. We didn't talk about that game. That they actually not only covered for us, but they won the game outright. Chase Young tore his ACL. Maybe it's an upgrade. I mean, I love Chase Young, but they certainly played well without him last week.
Mhm.
You've got Baker Mayfield, he's back on the injury report on a day-to-day with the knee. Jared Goff has an oblique injury. So Tim Boyle, huh? That's your guy?
No, quite the opposite. I was shocked to hear that David Blau wasn't in line for that start. Looks like it's going to be Tim Boyle, he of Connecticut and Eastern Kentucky. So not much pedigree there.
I don't know. We've seen some, outlier performances, so you never know. Aaron Jones got hurt in the big game that we mentioned before. He's out, 1 to 2 weeks with an MCL sprain. AJ Dillon guys are ready to go. He's looked good this year as well, so it's not a huge downgrade for the pack. Minka Fitzpatrick looks like he's on the COVID list. Now, do you think he's going to play? It looks like Ben's. He says Big Ben's likely to play. Do you think he's going to play this week?
I think that Ben's going to come back. I haven't seen any written reports of that, but just knowing what the protocols are now, I mean, oh, I guess it was late in the week though. 10-day
Well,
window could be tough for him, actually, now that you say that.
he probably can still do it if he gets the two negative tests or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's interesting. Like when you look at the fantasy stuff, I still see him as IR, but they do have a projection next to him. But it's hard to say. You've got Chargers Bosa, meaning Joey and Jerry Tillery on the COVID list for the Chargers. So that's all in the same game. That's kind of be interesting to see who actually shows up in that game because
Yeah.
that's big to the handicap. I mean, the defenses, especially if they don't have those two guys, I mean, those are two of their best defenders on the line.
Yeah, there is COVID question marks on both sides of that game, without a doubt.
And then some other notes. I mean, I know you're excited. Joe Flacco's back. I didn't realize that they dusted off Joe Flacco. The Jets are going to start Flacco. I mean, why not? It looks like they don't want our guy Mike White to get the job, so they're benching him so that way
Right.
Wilson can come back and take the job, right?
Precisely. Yeah, they don't want. I think they've realized that Mike White is not their quarterback of the future, and they don't want to trot him out there and have him perform well again.
Right. And then lastly, we mentioned Cam Newton. He's actually going to start for the Panthers this week. We'll talk about that in the handicaps. Not sure how I feel about it, but I mean, good for him. I mean, obviously, he had some weird stuff in New England, but
Mhm.
he probably is better than PJ Walker. Yeah, what can you say? All right, let's go to the indices we've got for the Wegs index. Similar to DVOA, looks like Bill's still number one and kind of way number one because of all these cream puffs they crush. The Cardinals are still two. A little surprised by that, but they've been going down in the numbers. Cowboys up to three. There's my team or your team. The Patriots at number four. They're just with a bullet right now, just rising up every week. Bucks down to five. We mentioned the Rams at six and the Packers at seven. Those are kind of the teams that are kind of a cut above the rest. And it looks pretty similar to DVOA.
Yeah, real similar. I mean, the Rams dropped down after two subpar performances, but Bills are back at one, followed by the Bucks, Cowboys, Cardinals, and the Patriots jump up to number five similarly. So very much in line with your numbers. One thing that I did pick out though is San Francisco is quietly rising in the ranks on DVOA, number seven now, despite their terrible record.
Interesting. Yeah, they're definitely still middle of the pack for me. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The next teams I have are like the Colts, Saints, and Browns, Titans. Those are the next kind of tier.
Yep.
But well, we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, that's kind of what's great about these as they play. That will make better. And there's plenty of games left. Like think about it. At this point of the year, usually you're looking at the downhill stretch, but there's teams that only played 9 games. I mean, there's still 8 more games for that, or right, 8 more games this year. So
Yep. Yep.
it's only about the halfway point. So there's still a whole half a season left for the season.
True.
All right, well, let's talk about the lines here. And we were talking before the podcast. It doesn't look like there's a lot of craziness like we've seen the last couple of weeks with hey, Dak Prescott's going to be out or Kyler Murray or something. So we may have to play it straight this week. But we'll see what happens. So the first game obviously is tonight. We won't actually pick it, but New England is going to Atlanta. New England is on a roll. They open as a 4-point favorite on the road, 46-point total. In the contest, it's 6.5, even though the market's between 6.5 and 7, and the total's up to 47. Now, is there any way to go with Atlanta here just because it's normally home teams do decent on Thursday night sometimes, as we saw last week with the Dolphins, but I mean, the Patriots on a roll, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I think this is way too big of an adjustment especially on a short week. I think you mentioned it. The look ahead on this game was 4 points. And now after the big New England win and the lackluster performance by Atlanta, this thing's been adjusted all the way to 7 and 7.5 peaked at 1 point this week before you saw some pretty sharp money coming back on Atlanta. So I played Atlanta at 7. Certainly wouldn't consider it for our contest, and considering it's also at 6.5, it's just a pass, obviously. But I did play some Falcons.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm not going against the Pats these days, so
That's fair.
We're losing us picks and money. So, all right, here we go. Detroit on Saturday. Detroit and Cleveland. Cleveland opens a 10-point favorite at home. 46.5-point total. It's 11 in the contest. The market's around 11.5. 43.5-point total. So the total ticked down. I guess that might be a Jared Goff adjustment. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that there's probably a couple points between him and Tim Boyle, even though Goff has not played well this season, and the weather is supposed to be very poor on Sunday in Cleveland. And so I was kind of, honestly, I was looking at Jared Goff and just knowing his propensity to not be able to hold on to the football in adverse conditions, that the Browns could be a play. I mean, I still do like the Browns at 11. Going to Tim Boyle, I just think this is a big bounce back spot for the Browns. And I keep going back to this trend of the Lions with their zigzag. They are still on pace week in, week out, and they got their cover last week.
They
and
did.
their big tie. They got their rah tie, and I think they're going to
Well,
come back to earth this week.
and it leaves them open for the zag, the positive zag against the Bears next week. I do think that's going to be
That's
their
right.
win if they get one this year. So we'll see.
True.
I get the zigzag. Let's put it as a yellow for Cleveland.
Okay.
It's right at the about the number, but again, having that backup quarterback's got to be an advantage for Cleveland.
And
So
obviously have to monitor Nick Chubb's status because I have no interest in Cleveland if he's not playing.
exactly. Next game, San Francisco going to Jacksonville. So this is a long trek for San Francisco to get down there. San Francisco opens a 5.5-point favorite on the road, 47-point total. In the contest, it's 6.5, 45.5-point total. So interesting situation. Obviously the Niners look like gangbusters on Monday night. The Jags, aren't a great football team. Don't love this number though. I think it's a little too high. I'm not saying to get on board with the Jags. That's not what I'm saying. Not for the contest, but I got this game as more of a 3.5, 4 spread. I was surprised that it's so robust. Do you think that San Francisco's just turned it around? Is that what's happening?
No, I don't. I think that San Francisco just has Sean McVay's number. I mean, that's like 6 games in a row that they've trounced the Rams, and they went back. The Rams are just too soft for them, and I'm
Yeah.
not so sure that they're going to have that same edge against this Jaguars team, who's pretty young and ready to get after it on defense. I honestly, I like the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence has been picking up his play lately
Mhm.
as well, and they showed a ton of fight last week and coming back against Indianapolis.
You want to put them as a yellow, or are you just saying or stay away? What are we saying?
No, I would definitely consider putting Jacksonville on the card.
Wow, yellow for the Jags. Let's do it. I mean, they're not in London, but
Mhm.
they have been playing better the last couple of weeks, surprisingly.
Yeah. Early start for San Francisco too, and out of
Yep.
conference going on the road to Jacksonville. I think it's a tough situational spot for them.
Yeah, agreed. All right, this is a big game, probably the best game in the AFC here. Indianapolis going to Buffalo. This is a playoff matchup last year that we liked. Buffalo obviously opened as a 7-point favorite at home, 50-point total. That's basically what it is right now. It's kind of weird that it's just totally static like that. On paper, this number is pretty good in terms of the metrics, but we've kind of talked about this overinflation of the Bills based on their strength of schedule. So are
Mhm.
you on board with the Colts going up there and putting up a fight and getting within this number?
Yeah, I definitely like Indianapolis in this game again. This is a rematch of the divisional playoff game last year, and I think the exact same number too, if I remember. The Bills were a 7-point favorite, and Indianapolis was covering the entire game and had an
Mhm.
opportunity to win it in the end,
They did.
ultimately losing by 3. But I think that the Bills are somewhat overrated based on the wins that they have turned out this season, the covers, rather. I mean, you're looking at their record and they have just covered against bad teams, Jets, Houston, Washington, and Miami. They also did cover against Kansas City in the big one on Sunday Night Football. But despite that, their cover streak isn't really that impressive.
Yeah, my reticence is only that the Colts' pass defense isn't great. They've given up so many touchdown passes, and that's obviously their strength, meaning the Bills. So
Yeah.
it's not like, you got to run the ball against that Colts defense to score. So, but I do think 7 is too big. And I mean, this is a potential playoff matchup. I know that the Colts have a ways to go, but I still think they can get in the playoffs this year. This is a big game for them.
Yeah. What do you think about on the other side, the Colts matchup offensively versus the Bills defense? Because Jonathan Taylor has been feasting lately, obviously, and we know that the Bills have a great run defense themselves.
Right. It's going to be interesting. This will be the proof in the pudding. I just think that the Bills defense, as good as they are, they haven't played an offensive line like the Colts. I think that they're still going to run the football here. And I don't think it'll be like, Taylor's going to have 250 yards or something, but I think that they're going to be, they're going to be able to move the ball. It is going to be on Wentz not turning the ball over. Okay. So
Mhm.
I think the run offense will be fine. It's just can Wentz make the plays that he needs to make and not be stupid with the football.
Right. So what do you think? Just pass, presumably, or
No, I mean I'd be on the Colts here.
okay,
I'm just
okay.
I'm just kind of throwing for the listeners,
Yeah,
we both like these guys, and we've been for a few weeks. I mean, the Colts have turned the corner, so I mean, I'm on board with it. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here.
sure. There's two sides to every game, no doubt.
That's right. All right, here we go. Miami's going to the Jets. This is a, a humdinger in the AFC East. The Miami opened as a 2.5 point favorite on the road, 45.5 point total. They're up to 3 in the contest, 45 point total. Ugh, this is a, ugh, I just want to stay away. I mean, normally speaking, I would say you can't put the Dolphins as a road favorite with 3 points, right? That's impossible. But this Jets team they're really bad, really bad.
Yeah. I'll admit, I earlier in the week I bet on the Jets +3
Sure you did.
and thinking that it was a good contrarian spot with Miami coming off of the big Thursday night win and cover over the Ravens, and the Jets looked like trash last weekend. And
Right.
then I saw the report that they're going to start Joe Flacco, and my I was appalled at that decision. The only explanation that it can be is that they're seemingly throwing in the white towel on this game and the white flag, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and they're just going out there to lose. So to me, it has to be Miami or nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be nothing in the contest. I'm not doing
Okay.
it. I mean,
Okay.
look, they played great last week, and I think that they did some things. Flores is a good defensive mind. They were talking about, we'll talk maybe about the Ravens later, but they went cover zero and just blitzed the hell out of them. So maybe maybe they're starting to pick it up. I just, the Jets could play great. I don't know what to do with this team. Flacco could
Yeah.
have a good game like White had a good game. I mean, it's weird, but divisional spot, I don't love it. I don't love a team that's not that great to be favored on the road like that. So,
That's fair. Happy to pass.
all right, here's an interesting one. Washington obviously got off to Schneid and won a good game last week, going to Carolina. Carolina opens as a 2 point favorite at home, 43 point total. It's up to 3.5 in the contest at that same 43. So they're seeing this as a defensive battle, but they're given 3.5, which is a big advantage to Washington. And we've been on Washington. They burned us several times. They caught us last week. I can't be on Carolina's side here. I don't know about Cam being back there, if that's a good or bad thing. They played great last week. I just think this is too big of a number for a team that's, they've got a good defensive line, no question.
Yeah.
But Washington's been able to move the ball on pretty much anybody this year. It's really just the defense. And if the defense plays well, it's going to be a dogfight here.
Yeah, I agree that the 3.5 number, it certainly shows some value to the Washington side. I think it's a good number for the contest, getting the hook, and it obviously is looking like it's going to be a lower scoring game. Um, I Part of me thinks though that Washington's strong performance last week just has something to do with the matchup versus the Bucks. I
Yeah.
think you wrote about it in your blog that they just match up well with them for whatever reason. And Heineke played like the game of his career again after the playoffs last season. So
He loves
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And
Hmm.
it's Ron Rivera's going up against his old team and now his old quarterback. And I
Sure.
think that's probably a pretty big matchup advantage for the Washington side because out of anybody in this league, he certainly, as a defensive mind, should know how to stop Cam.
He should.
And I also think that Cam starting now is not going to be a good thing all of a sudden. I mean, he got cut from the Patriots after a dismal season last year. I mean, is it projected that he's going to come out and all of a sudden be able to throw the ball this week? I don't think so.
Well, or run. I mean, what Cam's great at. He's running the football,
Yeah.
and it's a young defensive line. I mean, the the Washington defense has struggled because the secondary is not very good, right? They're
Right.
just getting the
Yep.
ball. He couldn't get off the field on third down. Cam's not an accurate thrower. I don't. I think it's about McCaffrey here. Can you stop McCaffrey?
Yeah.
And maybe they can't. I'm not sure, but it should be an interesting game. I'm happy to stay away to action. We don't have to be on the side here, but I'd be on the Washington side if we go anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I like Washington. I think we should highlight them and talk a little bit more about it. One thing I did hear late today is that Montez Sweat might be on the injury report as well. So
Oh,
something to monitor with loss of Young adding Sweat to that too would certainly not help the pass rush.
For sure. Okay, here we go. The Bears coming off the bye are hosting the Ravens. The Ravens open as a 6-point favorite on the road, 45 point total. In the contest, it's 4.5, so down from the opener at 45 point total. You know, you got to think, and I'm happy to stay away from this one too. You got to think that the Ravens are going to come out and just explode on the Bears because of the loss at Miami, unless they saw something on tape that they can replicate in Chicago. But 4.5 is not a great number. I don't love it for either side really. So I'm happy to pass Action, but I'd probably be on Baltimore here, even though the Bears are coming up to bye.
Yeah, some pretty sharp money come in on the Bears already this week. It was 6. And you saw a wave come in and knock it down to the current 4.5. And I wonder if that is partially due to Justin Fields and his strong performance the last time out against the Steelers, a good defense in their own right.
Sure.
I think the bye is probably another tick mark on their side of the handicap here. And I also wonder if teams are now going to try and replicate that defense that Flores and the Dolphins employed last week of just sending all-out blitzes at Lamar to stop the run game. Do you think that the Bears are capable of being flexible and taking an approach like that?
They are. I mean, there's no question that they are. I think that I think it's more about the Bears offense. So if we think that Fields is going to replicate it and be a guy who can, because I mean, the Bears offense is right at the bottom. I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So I think last week, with Baltimore was interesting. They did get in the red zone here and there. They didn't score enough in the end. I mean, that game was a slow start game too, and all of a sudden the fourth quarter kind of popped off. I just kind of feel like I don't know if the Bears can keep up with the Ravens scoring wise. That's all. I think they'll probably slow down the Ravens from completely destroying them, but I'm thinking more Harbaugh's not going to let this team play bad with the extra time off. I'm sure there's been a lot of coaching going on. Because it was a Thursday night to Sunday night trek. So it's almost like a mini bye for them.
Yeah. Baltimore defense is pretty poorly rated in their own right, though. 25th ranked in DVOA and 24 against the pass. So I wonder if Fields, what kind of points output do you think the Bears would have to get to cover this? Like, you're looking at 21. I mean, obviously the odds tell us 21 would get there.
Yeah, that's probably. Well, I mean, the total's pretty low, right? It's 45.
Yeah, 45.
I mean, so what? That's a 24-20 game. That's somewhere in that range. Yeah, I mean, to get to that cover, it's only 20 points. It's not that many points, admittedly. I don't know. We'll see. Something tells me Baltimore's going to come back with a fury here. That's all. It's more of a, it's not quantitative, it's qualitative here. But,
sure.
I'm sure we'll watch the Bears and they'll romp, which would be great. I would love to see that.
All right.
Let's stay away. All right. Okay. This one's interesting. New Orleans goes to Philadelphia. Philadelphia opened as a pick in this game. 43.5-point total. They're up to a 1.5-point favorite at home. Same total. This is one of these teams that the Sharps love. They've loved them all season. We've kind of discussed it a little bit. I guess it's the defense. They played great against the Broncos last week and won outright. Kind of a surprising outcome. But the Saints, I don't know, man. I mean, can't they stop this offense? I mean, their offense is, well, they played good in the second half last week and and got the cover. But I just kind of worry that I guess what I'm trying to say is I go on the Saints versus Philadelphia. I just think that the Saints are going to figure out how to slow down Hurts, but maybe 43 might be too high of a total here.
Yeah, I definitely think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I played first half under 21 points in this one because I think the Saints are really an under team. And it looks like Alvin Kamara still has not practiced this week. So again, like we talked about last week, definitely someone to monitor in this game. But I think the handicap is the Saints run defense against the Eagles rushing offense, because lately, earlier on in the season, we chastised the Eagles for not running the ball more. Well, ever since then, they have totally flipped the script,
Right.
and they are handing the ball off 29 times a game. But I don't think that's going to work this week against a Saints rush defense, which is in the top 3 in the league.
Right.
So it's going to have to fall on Jalen Hurts to complete some passes this week. And I personally think that the Saints are capable of stopping this offense. So I like the underdog Saints in this one.
Yeah, me too. I think that they're a really good road team now. You know, the Saints, we talked about that before on the podcast, and they showed it last week, even with Trevor Siemian. They probably should have, well, whatever, came to 2-point conversion or something at the end. But you know, they had a good chance in that game, starting slow in that game too, because they didn't play great offensively, but then they figured it out. I just think Philly, but again, I'm sure there's going to be sharp money in Philly, you know, and in the
Right.
contest for some reason. But this line movement shows me that, but I don't like it. I don't think that's right. I think it should have stayed around that, you know, pick 'em, or you know, really around a pick makes sense to me.
Yeah. For the listeners out there, I'm doing this myself. I'm going to wait until absolute game time on this one, because every week we've seen money come in on the Eagles. And I think there's a decent chance this one might get pushed up towards 3 on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that'd be I mean, not good for the contest, but good for you, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Here's Action's nugget of the week. Houston going to Tennessee. Tennessee opened as a 10-point favorite at home, 46.5-point total. It's 10 in the contest as well, 45-point total. You like the Texans in this one? Is that because you're a Tyrod guy, or you just think that it's an inflated line here for the Titans?
Yeah, I do like Tyrod, but he hasn't really lit the world on fire since his return from injury. But no, you nailed it. This is just another fade of the Titans and their lack of offense since the loss of Derrick Henry.
Mhm.
I think that for a team with this offense to lay a number like 10 points, even against the lowly Houston Texans, is just way too many.
Right, right. You're not wrong. Plus the total, we talked about this before. The total being 45. I mean, that's it's a total domination. So this is a divisional game. I mean, as bad as Houston is, they're used to playing the Titans a couple times a year, and usually that results in closer spreads. I mean, that's kind of
Mhm.
how it's traditionally, historically. And so, the road dog here, we've seen it all season. I don't know if I can get on board with Houston in our contest, but I understand the logic for sure. Um,
Mhm.
well, we'll talk about it on Sunday. We can put a yellow. We got a lot of
Okay.
yellows this week, Action, but we kind of go down to who do we trust? Do we trust?
Yeah. And Texans coming off of a bye too. I think that they're going to have obviously a rest advantage. And I mean, Tennessee has continued winning, but I'm going to say it again: the stretch of games that they've played recently has just been high leverage situation,
Six,
week in, week
six,
out.
six straight wins, man. This team doesn't. I mean, they're incredible. So,
Yep.
all right, let's talk about another divisional matchup. This 1 o'clock window is robust with games here. Green Bay is going to Minnesota. I'm sorry, Green Bay is open as a 2.5 or 2-point favorite on the road, 15.5-point total. It's down to 1.5, even though the market's like 2.5, which maybe that's something that Circa's seeing. 48.5-point total here. I did like Minnesota at the bigger number, 2 and definitely 2.5. It looks like the contest is thinking that the Sharps and a guy like me is loving Minnesota, so they're thinking it's going to get bet down. So,
Mhm.
what's your take on this game?
Yeah, I mean, this is the sharp pick of the week is the Vikings. I mean, this is just a tale of two different teams in terms of their luck this season. The Vikings have been one of the most unlucky teams in the league with close losses across the board. And on the flip side, Green Bay has been pulling out those same contests. I mean, you think back to the Vikings contest. I'm sorry, the Bengals. Both teams have played the Bengals this year, and the Packers ended up with an overtime victory, and Minnesota lost in a late field goal. And um, I think that you're getting a team here that is fairly even on paper when you also factor in the loss of Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers still presumably not quite back to full health. I think
Right.
that getting the Vikings as a home underdog here in a must-win game is a huge, huge plus.
Agreed. All right, let's do it. I'm on the green. I'm okay this time.
All right.
Well, it's a sharp pick of the week, but I'm on board with it too. So I see where it's coming from. Okay, let's see. We've got Cincinnati against Las Vegas. This is in Vegas again. I'm not sure the Cincinnati fans travel, but since Vegas Open it's a pick 'em at the opener, 48.5 point total. The Bengals are up to a 1 point favorite on the road, 49.5 point total. I mean, this is right where it kind of should be in my mind. It's Vegas is probably not the better team. They're about even, but I think Cincinnati's a little bit better than them. But they have been trending downward. I don't know if this is a coaching thing with Zach Taylor, but they're not playing quite as good as they did in the first, say, 8 games of the year. Vegas just, man, it was a dud on was
Yeah.
it night? Yeah. So I'm not sure. I'd like to stay away because I don't know where to go on this one, Action. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I haven't been able to peg the Raiders games very well this season, and similarly have some trouble with the Bengals. Two straight losses against the spread for Cincinnati, and now they're coming off the bye, so you would think that gives them a little bit of an edge. But I'm also happy to pass in this game. I do think there's going to be plenty of points, though, evidence of the 49.5 on the total.
Right, right. Exactly. Okay, let's pass that one. We've got Arizona, Seattle. Cardinals travel to Seattle. So it's interesting. Seattle opens a 2 point opener. I'm not sure when that was, but 50.5 point total, but now it's flipped back to the Cardinals at -2, 48 point total. When I was looking a couple days ago, it was a pick. So you're thinking that it opened up with Murray not playing and now he is playing, and therefore that's why the Cardinals are favored?
Yeah, presume maybe. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what that look ahead number is about. It's kind of interesting. I guess I didn't catch that. That could be. I did see as we logged on here that Kyler Murray did practice today. So
Okay.
that combined with this current point spread at 2.5 leads me to think that he's going to be out there. I'm not so sure about Hopkins, but I do expect that AJ Green is going to be back, and Rondell Moore did play last week despite his injury. So I personally think that Arizona is a play here. I did not like what I saw out of the Seahawks last week,
Okay.
obviously. And
0 points.
I think that you're going to see a much more renewed focus for the Cardinals this week as they get back into the division and really look to put a stranglehold on it.
Now we see in that division more than any other, it seems like there are matchup advantages,
Mhm.
that come up a lot. So what traditionally has Arizona done against Seattle? Who is the team that is, or is it just a split in this one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that if based on my memory, the Seahawks usually have an edge in this game, but
Right.
let me pull it up here. No, I take that back. You had last season they split with the home team winning both games, and then the season prior to that, it was also a split with the away team winning both games. So
Interesting.
looks to be pretty even in this one. I'm not sure that Cliff necessarily is involved in that triumvirate. I think it's more of the Seahawks, Niners, and Rams
Right,
that
right.
are
These
in that.
teams seem to always do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Well, do you have a strong lean? I mean, you'll put this on the card, or do you think you'd go Cardinals if you had to?
I do have a strong lean. I think that I would be very interested in playing on the Cardinals.
Okay. Look, if to me, if the Cardinals, I mean, obviously, if Murray plays, I got to do it. I mean, they're much
Mhm.
better on paper. I mean, like in my index, it's like 8 or 9 points better, right? But again, he doesn't play, then I'd like to back away. I'm
Sure.
not, on
Oh,
board with backups there.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. If Murray's out, I think it's a strong pass.
Right. All right. So Dallas going to Kansas City, the marquee game in the 4 o'clock window, probably really the rest of the window here. Dallas going to Kansas City. Kansas City is 2.5 point favorite at home in the opener, 52 point total. It's the same 2.5, but a 56 point total now for the most part across the board. It's weird, actually. We talked about before the pod. Yeah, Kansas City played great against the Raiders, who did not employ the defense. Um, Dallas is much better on paper. Again, I don't.
Mm,
It's going to take a while for the Chiefs to get their metrics all the way back, not just one performance. I mean, I think the total could be it could be an under game given the way these defenses have played. But I'd be on the Cowboys here. I can't get on board with the Chiefs.
yeah. I agree. And I like your thought about a sneaky underplay. Maybe wait till kickoff or abouts and let the public continue driving that total up.
Right.
But the Dallas defense is fourth ranked in DVOA and third against the pass.
Right.
So I think that they definitely match up well against this Kansas City offense. And I think that given their current form, that Dak is on par with Mahomes on the other side. So
Agreed.
I certainly think that the Cowboys are going to have some success on offense this weekend, and I agree. I would line up with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I'm curious if it's just, not that the Cowboys should be favored, but I mean, on my numbers they are. But I mean, I'm saying like because they're trying to balance, okay, Chiefs are a betting team, public team, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But it's a kind of a strange number. It's just kind of like, oh, we're just going to put 2.5. We did that last week and it worked. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'm on board with Dallas. I mean, you don't have to go green if you don't want to, but I'm on that one.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the point spread, same number, but considering the change in venue,
Sure.
it is a little bit different. I mean, I don't think the odds makers are trying to rate the Raiders and the Cowboys equally, but um, it's, I mean, we've talked about home field advantage. It's a lot closer than it would be in a normal year. I mean, you're talking about a number here that tells us Dallas is maybe a point or a point and a half better than the Raiders, and I don't think that's true.
No way.
So
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I agree. I think we should highlight green the Cowboys.
Wow, getting some greens already. A lot of picks this week. Okay, last two games. Pittsburgh going to the Chargers. The Chargers open as a 3-point favorite, 48.5 point total. They're all the way up to 6.5 now, 48.5 point total. Now, I don't know when that opener came out, if that had to do with before Ben or after Ben or what, but you think Ben might play and the Chargers are getting more love. I don't like that. I think the Chargers, I like this team, but I think they're kind of like Cincinnati. They're getting a little cooled off. They're not playing quite as well. In showdown games, they haven't played great this year. And in this one, I mean, I don't know. And Pittsburgh hasn't scored a lot of points. That's definitely the case. But this defense, I mean, Pittsburgh could maybe run the ball, possibly. And more importantly, I think the defense is going to play pretty good against the Chargers. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think I'm gonna make some Sunday night dinner plans and skip this game altogether. I don't I don't know why they are showing this game on Sunday Night Football. They should have
Oh,
made the no-brainer decision to swap this out for something different. But
yes.
uh, the COVID uncertainties on both sides just really makes me want to pass this game in all
Sure.
seriousness. I think that Pittsburgh is going to be in a whole heap of trouble if Ben Roethlisberger doesn't play. But on the flip side, I mean, you have a Chargers defense that is dead last against the run, and Najee Harris is coming to town. So I think that you could see a lot of yardage from that man. I'm certainly going to be looking to play some Harris props on Sunday night, but for our contest, I think we should pass.
Great. Love it.
Sweet.
And then the Monday night game, another kind of stinker, but these teams actually played on Monday night last year. The Giants go to Tampa. Tampa open as a 12.5 point favorite at home, 51 point total. It's 11 in the contest, and a 50.5 point total, right around that same mark, 50 and a half. I don't like Tampa with this number, to be honest with you, but I'm happy to pass because the Giants are the Giants. But use that any number of simple handicaps like Tampa in prime time and the
Mhm.
Giants are great on as dogs on the road. So I just don't know if I want to put in the contest.
Yeah. And last year, I think it was like similar spot, same number, and the Giants played him really tough,
They
remember?
did.
And I agree with you, though. I think we should pass. My contrary opinion to that is that Tom Brady was pretty clearly pissed off last week after the Washington loss, and
Yeah.
I imagine that Tampa's going to come out spitting fire on Monday night.
Good point. Good point. My Ravens handicap comes in on this one for you. So, all right, let's pass. We've got plenty
Yep.
of to choose from. Let's
Yep.
review the picks that we like this week. We do like Cleveland at home, at least as a yellow, 11.5 at home against Detroit, the zigzag theory. Jacksonville getting 6.5 at home against 49ers. That's obviously a little letdown spot. The Colts going to the Bills and getting 7 points on the road. We like Washington getting 3.5 in Cam's debut at Carolina as the starter. And then those are, of course, another yellow. The other yellow is Houston getting 10 points on the road at Tennessee. The ones we feel much stronger about in the green category would be the Saints going to the Eagles getting 1.5, Minnesota playing at home getting 1.5, Arizona laying the 2 on the road at Seattle, and lastly Dallas getting 2.5 on the road. So a lot of dogs obviously in this mix, but kind of follows it a lot of road teams.
Yeah, true. A lot of road teams, a lot of dogs. Certainly, based on the season so far, can't go wrong there. We do have a lot of highlights on here. Man, I didn't realize they added up that quickly.
Loving every game.
Yeah.
So we'll have some discussions, but we do have several greens, so maybe we'll just limit. We've got 4 greens already, and we can revisit, of course. But well, let's get into the contest update. So yeah, not a great week for us. Went 2 and 3 last week. The Colts kind of failed us a little bit, and then we had some surprises, which a lot of people did. I think the consensus went 2 and 3 as well. But the guys at the top are still rocking it. 38 and 12, so that's 76%. And the top 2 guys, the top 50 are 34 and 16, that's 68%, doing very well. We're at 52% now action at 26, 23 and 1. Not terrible. We're at 1,654th place, and then the 2 and 3 isn't great for the start of the third quarter, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's eight games back out of the top 50, certainly within striking distance. We just need some big weeks here ahead of us, and I think we're capable.
Yeah, we are, and we've got the extra week obviously this year. So just like the NFL teams, we can do better, and as long as we can maybe get on the positive side, not do the 2 and 3s, get more 3 and 2s and 4 and 1s again, we'll be in shape. So. All right, well, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegs on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right, everybody, let's get back on track and enjoy your weekend. Action, have a great trip.
Thanks. Will do.